Hello, this is Jack from teachingeslonline.com. Now, in this lesson, I'm going to talk about my favorite settings for recording videos like this one, where you are sitting at a desk and you're not moving around a lot, for the G85 or G80. But you can also use these settings, I'm fairly positive, on the G90, the newer version of the camera, and also the G7. Now, I'm also going to talk about which one of these cameras you should get, depending on what you want to achieve with your videos. But like I say, if you are looking to create YouTube videos where you are sitting at a desk, talking into the camera, or standing up and talking into a camera where you're not moving backwards and forwards, then this video is really going to help you. So before I share my screen and show you all these fantastic settings, know that I can control the light in here. By that I mean there is no external light coming in, and I use two lights here and then a third light up here. So everything is controlled, which means that when I turn on my camera, I know exactly what I'm going to get in terms of light. So the exposure is always going to be the same, which is great because you can customize your settings so that they are there every time you turn your camera on. And the second thing I want to share is, you've probably noticed I use external audio, and I'll leave a link to everything that I use in the description below so that you can use my beautiful affiliate links to purchase those items. But this is the AT2020, an external microphone. I think it's so necessary when it comes to recording videos like this one, especially if you're quite far away from the camera, which I am. Okay, so I turned the main camera off so then I can mess around with these settings. But the first thing I want to say is I shoot in manual mode, but I use this little AF button. So what this does is it auto focuses where you want it to focus, but then it locks it in manually, because the autofocus is a big problem when it comes to this camera. It's going to pulse. I think the G95 might be a little bit better, but when I tried it out in a store, I still had problems with this, just shooting my face. It can't find focus that well, and it doesn't really lock on to the focus. But if you're going to be in the same position all the time, then that doesn't matter. And instead of trying to manually focus where you are, using your hand, or maybe putting something here, going up there and changing the focus, you can simply just click this button and that'll lock the focus for you. So manual focus, and use the autofocus lock on there. Now, in terms of my settings, I'll go into this menu. I like to use photo style natural with everything around 0. I have experimented in the past bringing down the sharpness and the contrast and, you know, doing it in post, but this actually just gives a really good baseline on which I can then put a little LUT and change some of the exposure settings. But I like the natural style. The next thing I like to also set is the meter mode centered, because if I go back to the main screen, you can see that it's just below 0. Now if I change one stop, like 800 to 1600 ISO, it's overexposed, and I prefer to underexpose it just slightly and then change this within the settings. And again, this just 3 stops down, completely fine for me. So the F value is 2.8 to let the most amount of light in, and it doesn't really matter about the separation with this kind of video, but I do like the 2.8 as long as my whole face is in focus. Now the shutter speed is at 50 because we're recording at 24 frames per second, and you double the shutter speed here. And also, the lower the shutter speed, the more light comes in. Now just go back to this menu and I'll talk about the MP4 settings. So yeah, you can see here it's at the 24 frames per second, 4K, 100 megabits per second. Hopefully I've said that all correct. Now this camera is also great in HD, not 4K, so you can film in HD as well, but I like to do it in 4K so that I can sometimes punch in, and just because I can, and my computer is fast enough to process that kind of data. Now going back to the main screen, that's about it really. Those are the settings I like to do, and it just really solves this problem of autofocus with this camera. Now I'm back on the main camera now, and I didn't really go deep into all the different types of settings because a lot of people go into those settings and they're talking about things that aren't really relevant to this type of video. So this type of talking head to the camera video, these settings are the baseline and what you need. You might want to go into highlights and shadows and change that slightly, but we don't really need to concern ourselves with much else because we get the autofocus problem solved by going manual, but then also making sure we're in focus by using that button. And we also get the exposure correct as well, which is just vital when it comes to editing your videos. And you don't want to dramatically underexpose because it's going to look strange when you raise those exposure levels. Now, when it comes to which camera you should get out of the G7, G85 and G95, it just depends on your budget and what you want to achieve. So the G7 is great if you're going to just put it on a tripod. It doesn't have in-body stabilization, so if you want to do more vlog content where you're walking around the street and talking into a camera, then definitely get the G85 or the G90. But if you're just looking to put it on a tripod and record, the G7 is going to be great, and I still recommend it now, even though it came out so many years ago. And then just get yourself a cheap tripod. Again, we don't need to go high tech here because you're not taking it out into the field and you're not worried about wind blowing it over. I got the Amazon Basics tripod, I think it was $20. I got it about 7 years ago. It's been working great. And just a quick note on the lights, I definitely recommend getting soft boxes so there's no dramatic drop-off effect on your face. So just so then it actually gives you a nice look, you know, when you're talking into the camera. And for a list of everything else I use, then check out the description below. Now, if you're an online teacher, then I also have some resources for you, which talk about how to create your own online courses, how to become an online teacher and find your students online. So definitely go down into the description if you want to learn more about that. And if you found this useful, then please like and share it. Thank you for watching. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.